Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my review of Tales of Symphonia. So if you were on my channel a little bit earlier, you may have noticed that I did have a review of it up, but that review has been taken down. I did not like the audio quality, especially of that video, and also in general, the gameplay wasn't really that good. It was kind of glitchy half the time. It just wasn't that good. And there were also some really bad, horrible jokes. So this is a redo of that review. And I'm doing it because I feel like this game deserves it for sure. It's the reason why I ended up playing like 10 Tales games, why it's one of my favorite series of all time, if not my favorite. Now let's start with the review. So, Tales of Symphonia is an action JRPG made by Namco Tales Studio. Now this is the second game made, because we have to understand that Tales Studio used to be just Wolf Team, then it became Tales Studio, and at that point the Tales Studio kind of went and became two houses, if you will. You had the Team Destiny side, which consisted of games like Tales of Rebirth, Tales of Destiny 2, Tales of Destiny Remake, and they were mostly responsible for Tales of Grace's F. These games focused on a different type of battle system that focused on, I guess, cycling skill usage. So instead of having traditional magic point or technical point system, instead this focused on having it be so that it was just a matter of how many actions you could chain together at once, which is, well, that's the final evolution of it. It started off as just battle systems that avoided using that TP system that was traditional in almost every RPG ever. So Tales of Symphonia is from Team Symphonia, which took the formula from the basic games and evolved it, but still kept that basic part of the system intact. So you still had a finite number of technical points, and I mean, most games still follow the rule of, under normal circumstances, you can use a base art and then an arcane art, and in some cases, like with Tales of Symphonia, you can use a third level art. But yeah, so this is a game that starts that Team Symphonia line of games. It was published in 2003, and this review is based off of the PS3 and PC ports. Yes, I know that the GameCube version ran at a buttery smooth 60 FPS, while these two ports run at 30. This is the version, however, that most people that purchase the game now will actually have the ability to play, most likely. This game centers around Lloyd Irving, a teen who is great friends with Colette, the prophesized Chosen One that will restore the world of Silverant. The Chosen goes on a journey, and after an event leading to Lloyd and his best friend Genus getting banned from their village, they eventually rejoin Colette and go on their journey to restore the world. The battle system in this entry of the Tales series consists of a semi-3D version of the linear motion battle system. It takes place on a 3D plane, and of course, it's real time. Now, time for some pros of the game. The music is very nostalgic, though I wouldn't say excellent, but good. The plot had a reasonably large amount of plot twists and betrayals that were executed well, and the gameplay was fantastic and very enjoyable. The game is graphically pleasing, while not being cutting edge, which is well forgiven due to its age, but it still manages to stand the test of time. It runs on any modern system that at least has a dual-core processor. There is a large amount of side quests, and the characters in the skit system, skits being mini conversations that take place among your group of characters, is fantastic, and it adds a lot to the story experience. But of course, if you don't really care for the skits that much, you can just skip them, which is good because it gives players the choice between getting more development, getting more time with these characters, and just kind of brisking through the game and just going at their own pace. There's also a good amount of replayability due to the New Game Plus mode. Basically, over the course of the game, after every battle, you will earn something called grade. Grade is kind of in the name. Basically, it's a grade of how well you did, but it's not necessarily a scale. It's just a number, basically, and it's just like, oh, you did really well in this random encounter. Here's one grade. Grade, you also get a lot more grade if you do really well against the boss. Of course, you can also do really bad, and you can lose grade, and it sucks when you lose grade. The problem is that some games in the series are more lenient with grade than others, and Tales of Symphonia is... They're a little bit stingy with grade in this one. Now, in the PS3 and PC ports, you also have both English and Japanese audio. We know those people that hate playing JRPGs with the English voice acting, so this is a good feature for them, because if they just detest hearing their native tongue so much, they can listen to Japanese instead. Since the game's already been translated, you can hear it. Also, another thing to note is that if you play the game in English, the skits will not be voiced. When the voice acting was recorded originally for the GameCube back in 2003, Tales series didn't, when it came to localization, they never voiced the skits. And so, Tales of Symphonia skits can only be heard if you have the Japanese audio on. And I do recommend having that on just for the skits, because it makes the skits a lot better. Like, the skits are really good by, playing on the GameCube first time around, but, like, it's genuinely fun to listen to them again with the Japanese audio. Time for some cons of the game. Obviously, the HD ports run at 30 FPS, and they have no excuse to do so due to the hardware. I mean, these are just simple ports. I mean, for crying out loud, when Dark Souls 2 was ported over from Xbox 360 to Xbox One, or really from 7th gen to 8th gen, the Scar of the First Sin runs at 60 FPS, and they increased the resolution, and it was remastered and all that stuff. When you port Tales of Symphonia from the PS2 to the PS3, that should be 60 FPS for sure. Like, the PS2 was weaker than... It was the weakest console of the 6th generation, so it's understandable why they had to do that, especially with the added content, and also just the nature of ports in general, especially back then when consoles weren't as similar to each other. So it's understandable why they had to do it then, but when this game was ported over to the PS3 in 2013, the gaming landscape was different. At this point, you should, but even then you could say, okay, it's a port, but like the PC version, come on now. If they're going to implement DRM on top of Steam's DRM, then they should have at least made the game 60 FPS. I have to dock the game for that, for sure. Also, yeah, as I mentioned before, the DRM, the game is not able to be modded, which would open up a lot of possibilities, like modding. Like, that would be great, but companies don't want you to mod their game, because that would basically give you free content. You wouldn't have to do much, and companies have to make money off of you. So skits are not voiced, as I mentioned before, and the grade system, yeah, it's a bit too harsh. I wish it weren't as harsh as it is, but it is what it is. Overall, though, I can easily recommend this game to anyone looking to start playing games in the Tales of series. Some people argue that Vesperia or Abyss or Xillia are better places to start, but I think Symphonia's cost to access being relatively cheap, and the amount of accessibility being on PC, PS3 as well as GameCube makes it accessible for basically virtually any one that's looking to pick up this game. From a gameplay perspective, it gives the player enough to work with in terms of the amount of combos and just the general gameplay mechanics. It gives the player enough to work with without being too bare bones like earlier entries, and it also makes it so that when playing games like Vesperia or Abyss, there's more that you would have to look forward to. In essence, you're not spoiled, but you're not completely deprived of deep combat either. So that's how I feel about Tales of Symphonia. That's all for this review, and I hope to see you guys next time.